Howdy, my name is Madison Mendez, and I'm here to talk to you today about our psychology in film assignment, which I did with my two partners, Eric Torres and Olivia Garza. The film that we chose was the documentary People Say I'm Crazy. The main character was John CADIGAN, and he was diagnosed with schizophrenia at the age of 21 while he was an art student at Carnegie Mellon University. The documentary is filmed by CADIGAN himself and his sister Katie, to portray the life of someone with such a devastating diagnosis, full of psychotic episodes, depression, paranoia, isolation, and lifelong medical prescriptions. Before his psychotic break, John CADIGAN was an athlete and was very popular in high school, so as you can imagine, this diagnosis was a shock to him and his family, just to give you a little background. So, schizophrenia, according to the DSM, is classified as a psychotic disorder. And in order to be diagnosed with schizophrenia, you must experience two or more of the following. One being delusions, which are pretty much just incorrect beliefs about the world, and there are many examples of those, such as grandeur, referential, persecution, and influence. Hallucinations, which is where you see or hear something that is only in your head. And disorganized speech, where the person would make neologisms, which are made up words, or just have really incoherent speech where you can't really understand what they're saying. Grossly disorganized behavior, and diminished emotional expression, or, in other words, depression or lack of motivation. Their diagnosis, it must also be long-term and persistent. If you have schizophrenia, you're often disconnected from reality or have disturbed thoughts, which is where the hallucinations come into play. And men are usually diagnosed around the age of 21, which is exactly what happened to John. So symptoms that occurred during the film were persecutory delusions, which are positive symptoms, which is just something that you wouldn't normally do without the diagnosis. And this is seen in the film in that CADIGAN believes that everyone, even his sister Katie, is out to get him and profit off of his disorder through this documentary, and that certain gestures, which would be normal to us, like just a smile, made John believe that people at his brother's wedding greatly disliked him. Another example of another symptom is the negative symptom, which is something you would normally do if you didn't have the diagnosis, of avolition, which is a lack of motivation and social withdrawal. John had days where he did not want to do absolutely anything. His days of motivation were so rare that he would have to take full advantage of them when they did come along, and whenever they did come along, he would typically work on his artwork. With the social withdrawal, John did not like to be around crowds and was therefore miserable at his brother's wedding because there were so many people there and it just was very overwhelming for him. Another symptom was auditory hallucinations, where CADIGAN experienced a voice inside of his head telling him to kill his own mother. So, in the film, CADIGAN didn't have all of the symptoms that the DSM describes. He did not seem to have noticeable disorganized speech. This is most likely because he was on medicine to suppress this. We only saw in the documentary the medicated John, so the viewers were not able to see how his psychotic disorder would have normally affected him. So they basically started the documentary after his psychotic break. Possible treatment for John, and we did see a little bit of this in the film, but treatment could be drug therapy or antipsychotics. Examples of these would be like Thorazine or Haldol or dopamine or many other types of drugs. Psychotherapy, where you sit down with a therapist and talk about your state of mind. And usually those are combined. That's typically the best kind of treatment that has been seen. And these would be good types of treatment because, sadly, there is no cure for schizophrenia. So all you can really do is try to suppress the symptoms using medicine or psychotherapy. There are many side effects to the medications, which CADIGAN directly experienced through a large amount of gained weight, which also could have contributed to his depression. And if the treatment were to have not worked, he would have most likely been placed in a mental hospital. I do believe that this film is an accurate representation or portrayal of schizophrenia because it shows firsthand real-life symptoms of someone who is actually diagnosed with schizophrenia, and it also shows the effects of medication. This portrayal of schizophrenia influences our thoughts about this disorder by allowing us to sympathize for those with this diagnosis and understand how crucial it is for someone with such a devastating disorder to have a support system like family. Thank you for listening, and gig 'em.